How's it going, guys? So today we're going to go over a Walker mower. Big surprise, huh? This one is actually a viewer of the channel. His name is Danny. He lives pretty close by to me. He's seen some of the videos on YouTube and kind of follows the channel, and asked if I'd be interested in looking his mower over. I guess he just picked it up used fairly recently. He's kind of got a nice little outfit going on. He's got a nice enclosed trailer and truck all set up, and he's looking to go out and make some money this year, and this is going to be his mower. And he picked me to go ahead and give it a good going over. Probably going to just do a service on it, see what I recommend, and that's what this video is going to be about. So my machine's here. I haven't really done much for it to get it prepped for the season, so I will be doing that shortly as well, but I've kind of got that same video up so many times I figured this is a new model, a little different, pretty much the same, but just kind of refresh everybody's memory on what to do when getting one of these, or if you're going to look at one and you just kind of want to go through it. It also serves as kind of a reference for anybody that just wants to maintenance their machine. So I'm just going to video the process here and what I'm looking for, and go through this machine and see what we find and see what it needs. Got our low profile tires. We've got kind of a good amount of wear on the edges here. I'm not sure what that's about. Kind of looks like it's just been rubbing up against something maybe. So far we're looking pretty clean. I don't really see, kind of giving the hopper a good look over. Appears to be in really good shape. Not all banged up. Well, if this has got 2,200 hours, I would be willing to bet that maybe it was a homeowner that owned this. This is pretty good shape, actually. Very impressive so far, but we'll see. We've got the comfort seat, which is the same one that I upgraded to. Oh no, that's the I got the leather one, or whatever, pleather, whatever it's called. This is the standard newer seat that they come with. The older ones used to have that god-awful seat, so that's an upgrade. Got our little fuel injection set up here. The 26 horsepower models are completely different layout, so they've definitely changed some things up here. So this is definitely a more recent model. Looks like it's got some fairly new belts on it, or wow, it's actually, yeah, no, we got 2,100 hours, almost 2,200. We're looking in really good shape so far. Everything's looking pretty good here. Actually, very impressive so far. So we're going to go through it step by step and what I look for. I'm going to check all the fluids. I believe he at the very least wants me to do a oil change service. We'll do all the filters and whatnot, and I'm just going to go through basically everything that I do to find out problems, starting with the back and work our way right forward here. So all the hinges and everything are all in good shape, looking tight. Our strut's looking good. Holds the bagger up fine, no issues there. We got our fuel tank, it's showing a little over 3/4 of a tank, which appears to be right. So we're looking good there. We'll pull our air filter element out, see what we're looking at there. Okay, looking really clean. Just gonna keep that out for now. We're gonna blow that out. And the inside filter's looking really clean as well, so that's good. Got our fuel filter down here. Don't see any sediment in that. It's looking pretty clean. Nice. Again, the belts appear to be pretty clean. Look for some cracks and wear. Nope, those appear to be in really good shape too. This is one thing to watch out for. If it hasn't been greased properly, this can tighten up and you'll bind up these tension arms, and you can have your hydro slip. So you want to, what I do is I kind of just make sure that they spring right back nice like that. That way you know that they're putting proper tension on the belt. Same thing with this one. We just pull this up, make sure it springs right back down, which means this is nice and loose. So we're looking good there. Check the condition of our coolant fans for our hydros. Make sure they're the right ones in the right direction. Reverse, that looks good. Got our battery here. Appears to be, I think, a year 2023. I believe that's the tag that it's got on there. So fairly recent battery. Started up pretty good. Looking around here. Check out our PTO adjustment. Well, we're in good shape there. Could use a little adjustment. We've got about a 1/16 of an inch protruding on that screw right there. You want about an eighth of an inch. You want basically about that much sticking out when you're in the engaged position. I could use a little turn, but not bad. Linkage is nice and smooth, looking good there. Pulleys, looking good. No abnormal wear there, so we're looking really good there. Our GHS blower appears to be in really good shape too. Well, this is going to be an easy one, I can tell right now. We'll look our impeller over. Very, very little wear on this. Almost no gap in between there. Metal's nice and thick. When I reach up under these areas here, and that's where it will wear the metal down and it'll concave a little bit, and it's pretty much straight across from here to here up underneath. There's no wear at all. This is a fairly recent blower. It looks like somebody's changed it. Appear to be in really good shape there. Clamps are on nice and tight. Just basically doing a good visual to see if we see anything that's looking out of place. And so far, the only real issue I've found is this dipstick is stuck and this is a little low. But again, we're going to change that anyway, so we're looking good there. All of our linkages appear to be in really good shape. I'm going to go ahead and give it a good lubing up. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pull one of the spark plugs just to check their condition. See if they've been changed recently. So we'll do that. Alright, let's go ahead and pull this deck off and we're going to get a good visual underneath and see if we got any hydro leaks or anything going on under there. So alright, underneath the walker mower with the deck off. This is a place you want to inspect every chance you can when you're doing a service, because there's a lot of things that can get mixed down here. Okay, so we're looking for bottom of the hydros to show any wetness. Okay, they can leak out of these seals right here. They can also leak out of the front seal. This can be repaired pretty easy, this not so much. Usually it doesn't leak here, usually it starts here. These will get a little loose, and we're going to check those when we get up there for play, kind of wiggling them back and forth with the belt off. We're also looking at the PTO box here for any leaks. Looks to be pretty dry. No excess play in the shaft. Get a good look at the blower in here. As you can tell, there's not much on that one at all, so we're in good shape there. All right, so these are our drains for our hydros right here, right there, and right there. And if you I'll put a link to my other video that has all the the type of fluids and the amounts and everything that you need that I use when I change and service the every single fluid in here, from your PTO box, your gearboxes. These you very, very rarely need to service or deal with. I've never seen one fail. They're just slow moving, big, heavy metal gears in there with some gear lube. So that's something you pretty much never really have to service. If you're super picky, you can drain and refill those and put some fresh fluid in. I've only done that once on my mower in its entire life. And I've never seen one fail. So, but your hydros, you definitely want to make sure that you have some clean fluid in those and make sure that they don't run low. So again, we know that this one's a little low, but I don't see any signs of leaking, so I don't see any big deals there. Definitely want to keep an eye on it though, make sure it doesn't go low again. And then other than that, we see no other leaks. Everything's looking in good shape here. The frame's clean, it's not super rusty, hasn't been stored outside. Looking really good. All of our control arms, they're not all clapped out. You could definitely tell this is well kept or a fairly low hour machine, 2,200 hours. I would have, if I looked at this mower not knowing how many hours were on it, I probably would have guessed about 500. I wouldn't think it had over 2,000 on it. All right, so that's that. We're gonna go through the deck soon. We might find something there. That's gonna be next up. Before we get to that, just want to show you how to check for excess play in your hydro inputs. Now I'll show you, there's a kit you can buy if you have excess play here. It's fairly easy to do. I actually have a video on that as well. I'll link also in the description or stick it up here in the video, how to change that. Okay, this is that kit right here if you need to replace it. It comes with this shaft, which is actually this shaft right here that the pulley and the fan's on. Comes with the bearing, and it comes with a seal right here. Okay, it's part number 5025-13, I believe. Yeah, 13. And depending on where you buy this, is anywhere from like $60 to $80 last I bought one. But these are something that do go. I don't think we're going to have, now you're going to have a little bit of play on these pulleys, but you just don't want too much excess. These will actually get to the point where there's so much play you're actually surprised that it's not even leaking yet, because that shaft here is actually separate from the internal shaft that just slides into it. So that this outer shaft can have a good amount of play before it actually starts leaking, but you definitely want to keep an eye on it to be ahead of the game. So what we're going to do is we're just going to remove this belt, which walkers are great to be able to remove belts without any tools. So if you had to change a belt out in the field, you can. Probably a good idea to have at least one of the belts on hand for each application. You know, have your drive belt here, your PTO belt, and your ribbed belt here. So I like to take that off and then give these pulleys a good side to side. These are tight, very, very tight. So good there. And good there. Nice and tight, good shape. Again, you can tell this mower's in very good shape. Make sure our spring gets connected. Put the belt right back on. Okay. So, there we go. And actually, while I had that belt off, I should also check this idler pulley. This is another common item that goes, this one and this one. They can get noisy, they can get water in them. This one's pretty tight. And that one's good. There is also an idler pulley down in the bottom with an arm and a spring, much like this, and a small belt right down there when we're underneath it. And that is right there. This is the tensioning spring. It's a grease fitting here you want to hit, and there's a belt there as well. So there's this belt here, this belt here, this belt, and then the main PTO belt. So 1, 2, 3, 4 belts on the whole machine, runs the whole thing. So good idea to have all those on hand. And probably every 3 or so belts that you change out, you're going to want to replace the pulleys, because the pulleys slowly wear the metal, and eventually what happens is, even with a brand new belt, it'll go down so far into the pulley that it starts slipping, even with brand new belts. So that's when you got to replace these pulleys. They're $30 to $50 a piece. You got your pulley down there that unbolts off of your PTO box. There's also the one right there for the input for it. And you got the main, this is one that really wears out right here on the front of the motor. And then you got this one here. These ones with the ribs, these don't seem to wear out. I don't think I've ever replaced these, besides the idlers that hits the back of the belt. The ones with the rib side with the lines in them, these very rarely wear out, but these ones with the V-groove, they do wear, as well as the ones for the PTO. But again, it depends on your conditions. You know, if you got really sandy, dirty, dusty conditions, I think it wears more, depending on, you know, what kind of lawns you have. If you've got really nice plush green lawns, you don't go through sand, you're not sucking up leaves and like fall cleanups and stuff with these machines, which I do, all that stuff makes the stuff wear out quicker. So Make sure there's no debris down in here that can get caught into the governor. Sometimes you'll get a stick in here and it will raise the RPM prematurely or not allow it to adjust the RPM. You don't want to have any debris down in here. Valve covers sometimes leak a little bit. You got to replace those seals every once in a while. These ones seem to be okay. So we're looking good there. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit here, but it gives you an idea of what to look for. This is not a step-by-step how-to. I do have those videos up already. I'm just trying to do a quickie and something that maybe you could do if you're going to look at buying one of these mowers, and common items that wear and kind of what they cost to replace. Pretty much everything that you need to replace on these mowers I've already done on this channel before. So, and this wiring, I usually I've got a spray, like a protective spray, so these don't rust and corrode. You want to try to keep those connectors clean. You've got a main connector right here sometimes that you can have issues with. The wires can get a little loose, the pins can come out. This main starter wire is another issue. Watch out for if you can't start someday. I've seen people, it's as simple as this little, just unplugs right off of there. You see the little spade connector? Actually, is this one? Yeah, you can see I can pull that right off. Like right there, you look at that, you can't even tell there's an issue right now, but it's disconnected. I actually the last mower that I had on the channel that I went through and repaired for another buddy of mine that came here and brought it, he about a week later came by and said he couldn't start the mower and he didn't know what was going on, and somehow this had worked loose. This spade connector, it just slides right onto the starter down here. So that's a common thing that I've seen break off and actually fall off, this connector. If the connector is loose, you can take a pair of pliers and just squeeze it just a little bit and it'll give it more tension. So as it slides over the spade, it's nice. You want it to be nice and tight and snug so it won't fall off. But that's a main connector wire that could stop you from starting your machine often. It's either that or the safeties, usually the safety switches. So the only reasons you're not able to start your mower. So. And then we're inspecting the chutes. This chute here wears out after a while, but being that this mower is fairly low hours, we're fine there. Check your seat safeties. You got a switch under the seat. I actually don't recommend doing it, but I disconnect mine just because I'm the owner operator and I'm the only one that uses my machine. Certainly if you have employees, you want to make sure all of your safeties are connected, or if you don't know, just starting out on these machines, it's a good idea to have all the safeties working. Never recommend disconnecting them. That's do at your own risk. So there we go. That's about it for that. Tire pressure, you want to go through that. Again, do a full grease. I'm going to do that. Get all the 40 something grease fittings, Zerk fittings. You just need to give them a couple pumps each. If it's been a well-maintained mower, it doesn't take much. We're going to at least change the oil and the hydro fluid. That's the only thing I see at this point. Still got to check. There's only about, I think it's 8 ounces total of gear lube inside this little PTO box, so we got to get that out and check that. I may actually have to unscrew this whole. I might actually have to unscrew this dipstick. There's a, you can see there's a bolt right down there. The dipstick is actually like a big bolt that I can unscrew it and then find out why this is stuck in there. I don't want to break this off. I actually think I have a couple new ones in stock for this if I do break it, but I'd rather not. I think they're like 16 bucks to buy them. So we'll see if we can get those. And then also, as you'll see in my other videos, if you, like I said, if you're looking at this video because you want to do a step-by-step and maintain your mower, look at my other videos. I've got all this stuff down. But I always like to spray some like silicone lubricant on any of these cables. Anything that doesn't have a grease fitting that moves, I put a little bit of spray silicone lubricant on it. On here, any of these moving parts. Helps protect it and it helps keep it operating smoothly. Okay, so other than that, yeah, we're looking in good shape. The one thing that I didn't check, that I usually never check, is the grass fill motor in the back here. There's a little motor, the power fill system that goes back and forth. You've got to have the key on and the blade engaged, and there'll be a little windshield wiper type motor in here that goes back and forth, and obviously that's working, and that helps disperse the grass clippings inside. I have been running my machine without that, for many years, and it still fills the bag up fully. I maybe you get a little bit more. Honestly, I don't think it needs it. Maybe there's certain type of grasses that it helps with. I don't know, but mine just stays fixed like that. I've actually disconnected mine. It stays in one place. It fills the bagger up, no problem. I've never had an issue. I've driven many walkers with it working and without. But the only problem with that actually could bother you is that this needs to move back and forth for your beeper that tells you you're full to work. So obviously when your key's on, there's a little switch here. I think we've got to have this. What happens is it fills up, it gets to a point, you hear that? And if this isn't going back and forth, it won't hit, grass won't hit this and push on it and make that, and it won't make that sound letting you know that your bagger is full. However, after a while of using these mowers, all you walker pros out there know that you can kind of tell just by listening. There's a little bit of a less vacuuming sound. You can tell when basically you're bagging and then your airflow stops. Like here it's full and you don't have that open airflow anymore. If you stop instantly, dump your machine, you don't clog. If you keep going and let it fill up the whole tube, you end up clogging it, and then you got to lift the bagger up. So I don't use mine. I know when mine's full. It's not an issue to me. I think it's a great system, but if it came down to replacing the motor or having to put a lot of money into the system, I choose not to use it. I wouldn't disconnect it if it's working. Why not? Or if just the beeper ended up going bad, this switch here, I would replace that if the rest of the system was working, because you know it is nice to not have to worry or not have to listen for that. But there's a distinct sound difference when you're just about to be full. So, and that's what I go by. And again, my bags fill up all day long. I've filled up thousands and thousands of hoppers full right to the top, packed really good, and I don't see any difference at all. So again, maybe it's just more for that actual beeper, I don't know. But exhaust leaks, you know, you're gonna look for any soot coming out anywhere. There's the gaskets here. I always keep exhaust manifold gaskets in case those go. A lot of times the muffler will start rusting out and start leaking before the actual manifold does, where it connects to the head. So other than that, you know, you want to go through and check your systems to make sure you see when you turn it on, the engine service light comes on, and then that will go out when you start it. But you want to make sure it goes on when you first start the key. That's the self-check to make sure that the bulb's working. If you turn that on and then it doesn't light up, that means that the system has an issue or the bulb's broken, the wire, and something's going on, because that needs to light up and then it will shut off when you get running. Same thing with the oil pressure. You turn it on, it's saying now the light's on because it has no oil pressure, because the mower's not running. As soon as you start it up, that oil pressure light should go out. If it doesn't go out, this is the oil pressure sending unit right here on the top of the motor, and there's a little spade connector on it. Sometimes it can get disconnected, sometimes that sensor can go bad. Very simple one wire system. So you can check the light just by grounding out. You can take that wire and just stick it right onto the engine block, onto the ground, and see if the light comes on. And sometimes when you just shut it off and turn the key back on, this light won't come on because there's still a little bit of pressure. It might take 10-15 seconds before the pressure subsides down to where this light will actually come back on, saying that your oil pressure is low. So just be aware of that. Again, a lot of this stuff is common sense, but there's a lot of people that are going to be new to machines buying them, and if this video can help anybody in any way, I'm happy to make it. And it's nice to experience another new machine out here in the wild and running around. This one's in really good shape. Danny, I think you got a good buy here. I don't know what you paid for it. I know the prices of them new. Another thing this here is there's a little turbine in here that just spins around that's supposed to stop any big debris from getting down in there. It just cuts it or stops it from going down there, shoots it down. It's supposed to help build up of debris inside the air cleaner system. So sometimes those will break and make a rattling noise. These are actually kind of expensive. I think they're like 50 or 60 bucks for one of these, for a little plastic. Pretty simple, but never assume anything. Always give it a good look over, but you definitely want to make sure you don't fall into something that needs a lot of work. I mean, everything's replaceable. These machines are almost never worth throwing away unless it just comes to a point where they get so rusty and everything is gone. They become parts machines basically, but I'll guarantee you there's some type of good parts on it, no matter how many hours it has on it. But you know, pretty much your biggest expenses is your motors. You want to change your oil as much as possible, get as many hours as you can. You know, you should get up to, you know, definitely 3, maybe 4, even 5,000 hours, maybe 6,000 if you're really good. Would be really tops. You're going to be burning some oil at that point. So expect that. Your hydros seem to be kind of a mix. I've had hydros. I had one of the original hydros, I believe, is still in that machine with, you know, 10,000 hours or whatever's on that machine, over 10,000 hours on it. And it's, again, still the original hydro. One of them I did have to replace. I have replaced that input shaft, like I said. This kit here, I did have to do on the one that still exists in there. But it doesn't leak, it still works, it doesn't slip. And so I've had hydros, I've seen them fail with 10, 15 hours that are basically some type of defect. And then I've seen them last a year, I've seen them last 2 years, I've seen them last... So it's kind of a... I don't know. I believe they're a great design, and I think they must hit something that made something go wrong. They overheated, they got clogged up, they ran low on fluid, or somebody just didn't change the fluid, or maybe some contaminant got in it, something that makes them fail. Maybe they just really overheated and got stressed too much, and that burnt the oil and made it wear out prematurely. But if you take care of these are stout drive systems. These should last you a long time, very long time. So, but yeah, that's it. These are pretty much the same. This machine is no different. This is I think this is a 2001 machine. It's not much different. Almost all of the parts are still interchangeable. You know, they even have them older that has the air cleaner right here. This is a little bit newer setup. I've upgraded to some of the newer style. Like I said, the hopper's newer, the seat's newer, the wheels are newer. I've put some of the newer, like the newer drive handles. I actually modified those. My drive handles used to come way out to here like a big triangle. That's how they used to be when they first came out. And I replaced that hood. That's new. It says 25 horsepower. This is actually a 20 horsepower unit, but that's the one that they sell. It's all pre-labeled with the 25 horsepower stickers on it. You don't get the 20 horsepower anymore. So I've replaced that deck shell many a times. All right, so let's check out this deck and see what we're looking like there. Okay, so on these decks, we want to check the condition of our drive shaft right here. There's a sticker on both sides of here with an arrow. This one's almost worn out, but you can see the red still here and here. You want to line these up. If this sticker ever disappears, what it's lining up is these U-joints. You see how the U's face like this? You want to have it in phase, okay? Which basically, like, see how this end cap is right here? Let me bring you over here. Of course it turns. Okay, so this disconnects at this spline, and you could put this shaft anywhere. You want to make sure that this end cap and that end cap is in line together, because it can cause vibrations. I could technically take this off, turn it, and put it back on and have it out of phase, and then you get a vibration. So there's just simple U-joints in here. You want to check them, make sure there's not extra play, make sure they're not bound up. There's grease fittings on them that you want to hit right down in here. And then this has a grease fitting on it. This collar, you want to grease that. This collar I usually spray with a spray lube because it can get bound up. It's like a locking collar. Spring it back like an air hose fitting that slides the shaft onto your PTO box. You always like to lube that. Just makes it a lot easier out in the field if you need to disconnect your shaft. Okay, a lot of times your deck will start leaking down in here on your main T input. That's the biggest stress. So you want to check for excess wear there. You want to look for oil leaking. Usually you won't really see the oil, but you'll see a buildup of dirt that turns black because it basically the oil absorbs that. Looks like somebody's put some paint on these gearboxes, so maybe these have been replaced before. It's got some type of replacement tread on it. No big deal. These linkages get a little loose after time. Just want to make sure to keep those lubed. Got all these little rubber bushings and the washers for your height adjustment. These are all in place in good shape. These little nylon plastic inserts with the little C-clip on the bottom. These break often. You want to keep those on hand because then you get excess deck play, and you want it to be able to contour with the ground up and down easily. So that's looking good. All right, let's flip the deck up and see what the underside looks like. Okay, so when you have your deck disconnected, it is pretty heavy to get up in this position, but it will stand up and be relatively stable, okay? So you can do that if you need to do any work on your deck when it's disconnected from the machine. Just a little pointer there. So under here, obviously you're going to do your blade sharpening. Okay, all right. Oh no, we're upside down. I thought for a second I thought the blades were on backwards, but the deck's backwards. The grass is going this way. I thought the blades were on backwards. So this blade's going to turn this way, and this blade's going to turn this way. And you want the sharpened end of the blade right here where they meet in the middle. The sharpened end of the blade needs to be here. So see, the sharpened end of the blade is closest to where the grass is going. Into the chute, sharp. Right here, sharp. If you have it the other way around, you put this blade on here and this blade on here. You could have the back side. I've done it 3 or 4 times by mistake. Change them, throw them back on, swear that you had it right, and you start mowing and it'll sound a little weird. It will mow. It kind of like knocks the grass over. It'll cut some of the grass. It'll just look wrong, be kind of like blowing out of the deck a little bit weird. You're like, what's going on? Something's not right. Always check to make sure you put your blades on correctly. Got your shear pins here that if you hit something, they're designed to snap off so it releases the blade before anything else breaks. So that's a failure point. You will break those fairly often, depending. I mean, I go a year sometimes without breaking one, and then I can break them twice in one day. So it's kind of one of those things. There's also a pin, a shear pin inside this collar right down in here where the drive shaft connects to this T-box that can break loose. So if you see this spinning and your blades aren't spinning, that there's a little like I said, there's a little pin in there that you can replace that is designed, a shear pin that's designed to break before it breaks gearboxes. So what you want to do when you go to take these blades off, sharpen them, just look at the bottom of each of these gearboxes, make sure that there's no leaks. And when we put the deck back down, we're going to take all of the top cover off, and we're going to check the fluid to make sure that the fluid's up to snuff. See how dirty it is. If it looks really clean inside, we won't change it. If it looks really dirty or it's low, I would definitely recommend changing it. So we're going to do that next. These wheels are super important. I actually recently put these on my mower. They do break. These are they have upgraded ones. I believe these are the upgraded thicker ones. They had the original ones were a little thinner and they crack easier. These actually might be the older style, but they have an updated one. So make sure you do get the updated ones when you replace these. Again, depending on your mowing conditions, they don't really wear out, so to speak. They just end up broken for the most part. And then this plastic shroud I've replaced a couple of times on mine. It just wears over time. It ends up cracking. Sometimes you can see we're missing a rivet right here. The rivets will start coming out and wearing through and disconnect, and it'll get sloppy and it won't line up. And so keep an eye on that. This is definitely something I'm going to want to throw a new rivet in right here before this becomes an issue. So I'll do that for Danny's machine here so he doesn't have a problem. And so that's that. And yeah, let's check the fluid in the gearboxes. All right, so it looks like maybe somebody shot some primer or something on this setup. You're looking for leaks in between here. There's little gaskets in between each of these. Looks pretty dry, maybe very, very slight seepage. Every once in a while you will find these bolts can loosen up. So you want to just take a wrench and just snug these all up. Especially if you see a leak. You just make sure those are nice and tight. If there is a leak, usually it's because these bolts have loosened up. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove these little screws right here, and here, and here, and we're going to check. Well, technically all we need to do is remove one to make sure that the fluid's up to snuff. And actually, you know what, for the video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the whole cover. Since this is a mower that I'm unfamiliar with, I want to get a good look at the gears inside just to make sure that they're no chipped teeth or nothing crazy going on, and that'll give us a better idea of the condition of the fluid. So the only downside of that is you do have to be careful with the gasket when you take it off. It's not super important. They're just regular cork gaskets. They seal up pretty good. But every once in a while, if you do take them apart and you put them back together, you can put just a little bit of silicone, you know, RTV to help seal it back up, just if it does leak. But all the fluid stays down here for the most part. When it's running, a little bit could drip out if you had a leak, but I've never had a problem with the top cover leaking just by reusing this gasket a couple of times. But the gaskets are only a couple of bucks if you want to change them out. But be careful if you use powered tools on these screws. As you can see, they're barely on there, just enough to snug them. You actually, pretty much as tight as you can get them with a screwdriver is about how tight you want to get them, just with a good twist of the wrist. But I usually use a 5/16 or an 8 millimeter to take these off, just because it's a little quicker than a screwdriver. But if you hit this with a power wrench, little impact or something really fast, these things will snap right off easily, so be careful of that. All right, then I just give it a little tap. Helps break that gasket loose. You can see the gasket stayed intact. Okay. And there we go. The oil looks really, really clean. But I see some black in there. I don't know if that's just paint inside. Okay. A little bit dirty, not bad. Could definitely get away with not changing it. I probably wouldn't if it was my machine, but you could. It is a little bit low. You want to have the fluid just about to the top of this shaft right here, so it's just even with the top of that shaft. So it's down a little bit, maybe like 1/8 of an inch. So if you're adding fluid, this is probably going to need, I would say, maybe 8 ounces. And this does share between here and here and here. The fluid runs between these tubes. So where this is a little bit low here, I would just probably fill this box right up to the top, and then it will slowly go down, work its way in here, into this box and into that box, and even out and end up right about at the top of the shaft. So, and then where this gasket's nice and clean, it didn't get broken, I would just dry this off and put the cover right back on, snug them back down, and this will reseal no problem without even any sealant. So good shape there, about what I expected. So that's about it for this machine, guys. Not really much else to look at. Kind of gone through it all. I'm going to give Danny a call and let him know what I found, and which isn't much, and see what he wants to do, see what fluids he does and doesn't want to change. I know at the very least we were just doing a oil change for the machine, and I believe the hydro oil, I think, was the plan originally, but we'll confirm that with him. And that's going to be it for this. Again, if you want to see detailed how-tos and changing the oils and all that stuff, I got plenty of videos. I've already put the links up in this video or down in the description. Go ahead and check them out, and happy walkering. It's definitely buying these things used is definitely a good idea, especially a good condition one like this. You save yourself a lot of money, and there's a lot of these machines out there, so if you do enough shopping, you can find yourself a nice decent machine for low money. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.